Welcome to Guided Spirit Conversations. I'm your host, Marla Goldberrg. This podcast has been created with you in mind to acquaint you with some of the most incredible metaphysicians and spiritual leaders from around the globe who have helped others change their lives. In this interactive hour, you will be offered insights and techniques to help you make a difference in your life. Don't forget to subscribe to the show on your favorite listening platform. And here we go, on to the show. Hello. Welcome to Guided Spirit Conversations. I'm your host, Marla Goldberrg, and I want to start the show by sending prayers and light and love to the country of Ukraine, hoping that they have a lot of strength to be able to stand up for their country and be able to protect, praying that the collateral damage that happens in war is limited to a very nominal number. But let's move on to the self-love show. I'm so excited. This is the last Guided Spirit Conversations of February, and we are going to be talking about self-love. I am with two experts. We have Laura Waszak, and Laura is a self-love coach, meditation facilitator, Reiki practitioner, and owner of Badass Soul Merchandise. Love that name. During her own self-love and spiritual journey, she discovered Reiki and meditation as tools that helped her to do the inner work, which allowed her to heal her past and finally learn to love herself fully and trust her intuition. She is now using these tools to help her clients tune inward so that they can heal from their past, trust their intuition, and live a life of adventure through spirituality and radical self-love. In addition, I have Desie Laenen. Desie's coming from the Netherlands, and Desie is a holistic coach. She guides on their journey of healing with the relationship with themselves, food, and their body. Desie was a recovering anorexic and bulimic nervosa person. She had this, and she learned how important it was to work on the relationship with our own personal selves, herself, which expands itself into everything we do. Desie started her healing journey and learned to tap into the connection with spirit by combining the information that she was learning, as well as holistic nutrition and connecting with her higher power. Desie came to see how powerful she truly was. Desie learned to connect her high self that has always been there, but was hiding underneath layers of disbelief, unhealthy past idea about who she was and what it meant to be alive. Life has gotten completely a different meaning today. Desie is now continuing to strengthen her relationship with spirit, improving her well-being always, and guiding other women to do the same, to learn to create healthy, loving relationship with food, their selves, their bodies, by reconnecting to their truth and higher power. Welcome, Desie and Laura. Two powerful women. We have all gone through our journeys from the dark to the light. So, one fellow warrior goddesses, I'll say. And
Thank you.
I'm so grateful that you're here to talk about one of my favorite subjects, which is self-love. So, we know you have a history of issues, as I do, but let's talk about why self-love is important to each person's personal and spiritual growth. I'm going to start with Laura, and then we'll go to Desie. So, Laura?
Sure. So, self-love really, it's not ego-based, right? Self-love really deals with your inner self and getting to your highest self. And so if you're unable to get to that point, it's difficult for you to really live your true life, your true dreams and passions and your true self. So for each person that may be different, but until you're really able to get to your inner self, it's difficult for you to live a life that you're unapologetically living and living in your truth. So for me, that was the biggest thing, was I needed to really learn to love myself in order to do the things that I wanted to do in my life and live the dreams that I want to live. So it's extremely important.
And Desie?
Yeah, like beautifully said, Laura. it's so important to learn to create this relationship with yourself first before you start anything else, or a relationship with something else, or you start looking for outer acceptance or things outside of yourself. It always comes back to yourself and your own perception and the way you see things and experience things. They always come back to how you see yourself and how you feel worthy about yourself and um, how you feel about yourself. So it, like everything in your life, always comes back to the relationship that you have with yourself, which is why it's so important to always come back to that practice, that relationship with yourself, in order to continue growing and learning and expanding in your life moving further.
I agree. So it is all about the work that we do within ourselves. And that if we're sitting there carrying around low self-esteem, low self-confidence, negative limiting belief systems about ourselves, we're just a hamster on a wheel. We keep trying and trying and trying, but we really don't get anywhere. I don't know if you agree with that, but that's my take on self-love and where you really need to, you know, hoist up. And here's the thing, getting to self-love is a journey. It's not a destination, and you have to continue to work on. And there is a spiritual element to this. So how can self-love become spiritual? I'm sort of segueing into a new question. So I'm going to start with Desie.
How can become self-love spiritual? Good question. I think once you start learning that there is a higher, like, you start to learning to see that you have a power within you, and that power is maybe feels very powerful, something like almost outside of yourself, like it feels so powerful, but you start learning that it is actually you, and that power within you feels like a higher power within yourself. And when you have to get still in order to see these things and to listen and to be willing to be with yourself, you have to get still and you have to get into spiritual practices, so to say. Like it doesn't mean you have to do one thing or another, but it can be meditation, or it can be yoga, it can be going outside for a walk. But these are all spiritual experiences that you have within yourself. And maybe you don't feel like it's a spiritual thing, but I think for everyone that starts to go on this journey, they will fall into creating a relationship with spirituality eventually as well, by diving into their own healing.
Nice answer. Thank you, Laura.
For sure. I definitely agree with all that. I mean, we're all spiritual beings at the end of the day, right? So, like I mentioned, self-love is not ego-based. Self-love is really getting to your highest self, to who you are at your inner core. So when you really start to do that healing work, that self-love work, and using those spiritual tools, it really helps you to understand that you're connected to a higher power, that you are connected to something that is helping you lead this life and connecting to your intuition. So it all starts to come together once you start really tuning into yourself and starting to realize that you are a spiritual being, that anything is possible once you are connected to that inner part of yourself and connected to spirit.
How do people disconnect from spirit and find themselves in places that are not loving to themselves? We're going to start with you, Laura.
I think it's people aren't doing the work necessarily. It's a lot of the times, especially growing up, you start to hold on to experiences and traumas that you hold within your body. And then these start to bleed into different parts of your life if you're not doing that healing work. And so you can be constantly in your head and disconnected from your body. And so that disconnects you from spirit. And so once you're doing that work, it enables you to connect back to what that trauma was, what it is that's holding you back, and then connecting you to that higher power to help you through that issue as well.
That's a great answer. Thank you. Desie.
Yeah, could you repeat the question? It went a little bit too fast for me. Thank you.
I'm so sorry. It was about the ways people block their spiritual connection, and how did I say this? It's always channeling these questions, so I tend to forget. But it's about spiritual blocks, and how do you get people to understand that they need to be connected to have progress.
Okay. I think that the way that we block ourselves from this connection, and the way that we block ourselves from healing and from growth, is often by seeking things outside of ourselves. And like Laura said, being in your mind all the time and looking for things, and instead of grounding into your own body and your own truth. That's always the way that we block natural flow and good energy and happiness to come into our lives. And it often, from what I see in my own practice and own coaching, it reflects into either relationships or foods, like disordered eating, or drugs, alcohol, sex. Those are the big things that we try to compensate or to cope with feelings that we don't want to deal with. And I think in that way, a lot of people block themselves from actually having a truthful spiritual experience by getting inside of themselves.
So let's talk about self-responsibility, and how self-responsibility is really like one of the top key, I call them golden keys to learning how to heal themselves, to move into the place of self-acceptance and self-love. Desie, why don't you start with that question?
Sorry, can you repeat that for me again?
So we're talking about self-responsibility, and how, there are many people who don't want to take responsibility for their part of certain circumstances and situations that bring them more of the same. So how the importance of taking self-responsibility for what's going on in your life moves you to a different place. It's almost like that AA saying that, you really, until you acknowledge that you have an issue, a problem, you're not going to believe you have a problem. And so if you don't believe it, you're not taking responsibility for it. But when you do start taking responsibility, you can then start progressing into the different phases that lead you to self-love. Because it's not it's not an A to D jump. You have to go through the different processes.
Yeah, I think just the fact that you acknowledge that you have to take responsibility, or that you have a problem or a situation that you are responsible for, I think that's already a form of self-love. Being honest with yourself, and be willing to see the truth that you are the one responsible for the situation and responsible for your experience. I think that's already on the journey of.
It is. It's definitely a part of the journey. It's an important part of the journey, as I see it, from my opinion. Laura, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think the first step of self-love, that journey, is really taking accountability for what your role is in your trauma, or the way that you're living your life, right? So that's that first step, is really being accountable, because at the end of the day, we're the only ones that can change our lives. We're the only ones that are responsible for our own lives. So until we take that responsibility and acknowledge that, we have a hand in our own suffering, you can't move on from that point. So it's a huge part of self-love in the healing journey.
I agree. I totally agree that it's really important to take responsibility, whether it has anything to do with, I don't know, just a little blip in a relationship, that maybe you hurt somebody's feelings by saying something. Own it. Say, say you're sorry, which leads me to the next piece of what I'm thinking about, which is forgiveness and boundaries and where they stand in the process of moving into self-love. So Laura, let's start with you.
Yeah, forgiveness is a huge part. Forgiveness for yourself. A lot of people, it's easier for you to forgive other people than it is for you to forgive yourself. So it's really taking a look at, again, about, you may have done certain things that weren't necessarily good for yourself, but it's looking at those things, understanding that, you would have handled it differently if you had the right information at the time, and just forgiving yourself for doing what you needed to do in that moment and moving on from that, and just taking accountability for it. So, with my clients, it's actually one of the first things we do is self-forgiveness, because it's actually just looking at what your role was in your healing, in your journey, in your self-love journey, and just forgiving yourself and moving on from that, and taking that as just a step in the right direction.
Great answer. Thank you. Desie.
Yeah. Forgiveness is massive, I think. Forgiveness to others and forgiveness of ourselves. Like Laura said, in each and every situation, I think that's also one of the first steps you have to take yourself through in order to release yourself or take yourself away from any trauma that you've been through with other people from the past that you still hold on to, or anything that you haven't been able to forgive yourself for, in order to move on and to continue stepping into the person, the woman that you desire to be, because you're dragging yourself backwards all the time if you keep having that guilt or shame around a certain subject. You're not allowing yourself to move on and to continue to expand and grow.
It's a great answer. Thank you. I'm going to apologize. We're having a little bit of sound difficulty. I don't know where that's coming from. I don't know if you all hear that or not. Okay.
Yeah, I do hear it.
So I don't know if Bridget can work her magic in the background and try to help us out. In the meantime, I'm going to keep those questions rolling. Oh, there we go. Oh. So when we talk about forgiveness, you work with clients. Let's talk about how you handle their resistance to forgiveness. And when I say that, I'm talking about there are many people who, again, this goes with self-responsibility, that they say, I'm not going to forgive that person because they did me wrong, rather than understanding it's their gift to forgive, it's a gift to themselves, or the self-forgiveness piece, that goes along with it. So if you have a client that is resistant to the whole concept of forgiveness and forgiving themselves as well as others, how do you work with them with this? I'm going to start with Desie.
It really depends the situation, but I think the most important thing is to see it from a different perspective, and I would say to see the person or yourself with love. And what I often do is, and what I find very helpful with clients, is that once you see the innocence and the vulnerability within a person that is also trying to do his best and always just going with the things that they have at that moment, and once you connect for yourself, for example, to your inner child in a meditation or a guided practice or anything, that resonates with the person, you can connect to that feeling of love, that feeling of understanding, that feeling of, okay, I understand why you did this, and it wasn't the perfect situation or the perfect choice, but by seeing this version, this innocent version of the person or yourself, I think it's easier to
Okay, Daisy's having, I think Daisy froze. So we're going to move to Laura with this same question about the resistance of your clients. Oh, there you are. Thank you
it got
for that,
stuck.
Daisy. I love technology,
Yeah, it's
but
amazing.
it can also be challenging. So you have to have a sense of humor. Laura, your thoughts about, how you work with your clients if you're finding that they're resistant to the concept of forgiveness, whether it's in the way of forgiving somebody else or going into selfness.
I think it's really getting to the root of it. Why is there resistance? So, it can be doing some different healing modalities to really get to that root if they're unable to verbally express it at the time. Meditation is a good way to really walk them through a meditation and get them to see what that root might be, but also just having accountability. I think, especially as a coach, holding them accountable for them on this healing journey. I think that's what it's all about. Because again, it goes back to they're responsible for their own healing. So it's holding them accountable, but also helping them get to that root and using different tools to enable them to get to that root of that issue.
Excellent. Thank you. So boundaries. Boundaries are, in my world, huge. I was brought up with very few boundaries, and now I have very delineated boundaries. And people have hard time with people with boundaries because they don't understand that it's really important for the person's highest and best good to know what they will and will not deal with these boundaries. So let's talk about the importance of them, especially on this journey to self-love. Laura, why don't you take this one?
Yeah, I mean, boundaries is really all about what it is that you want, right? What you feel comfortable and accept. And so once you start having boundaries for other people and allowing them to know that this is what I accept for myself, it's really it's a step for you in the right direction on your self-love journey, because you're putting those boundaries in place for other people that then allows you to put those boundaries in place for yourself. So I feel like it's one of those things that it takes you a while to really start putting those boundaries in place and understanding, like, especially when you don't fully know what it is that you want for yourself, it is hard for you to put those boundaries in place. So once you start to learn what things work for you, what doesn't work for you, it becomes easier for you to put those boundaries in place. And it becomes easier for other people to understand that I'm not going to disrespect you in these ways, because I know that I can't get over on you with that. So it's really, it's an important step for sure.
I so agree. Daisy, your thoughts?
Yeah, so I totally agree with boundaries being very important. And what I find within my own work and with myself and with clients is that often we have resistance to set boundaries, because we also know what is going to happen when we set the boundaries, and a lot of times that might mean that you're going to hurt someone, or you're going to lose someone, or someone is going to be offended. But a lot of times that says so much more about the other person and how they perceive things, and how they see you and use you, or like what you mean to them. And that can often be very hurtful or hard or challenging to see that. So a lot of times I see a lot of resistance in between that. So the boundary itself is one thing, but what it brings, what comes back from the boundary, I think there's a lot of resistance for that. What makes people not wanting to put their boundaries, because it just brings up a lot of things that are just under under the ground or under the layers or hidden. But that's why it's so important to set these boundaries and to be honest with yourself. And it might mean that you're going to lose people or that people are going to change their behavior, but it's always a way of respect and love towards yourself and towards where you want to go.
I agree with all of that. And here's the thing. Here's where my take a little bit. I'm going to just share a little bit of my take. It's without boundaries, people just run ramshot over you. And by you showing them what you will and will not tolerate shows self-respect for yourself. And that is a form of self-love. When you respect yourself to know what you will allow people to do, say to you, then you say, nope, hold off, this isn't going to work. I think you're showing yourself, you're showing your guides, guardians, that you care too much about yourself to let people just run over you with their stuff. And so many of us are born and raised without boundaries. So how do we set boundaries? Let's start with Desie on this one. How would you tell your clients or suggest setting boundaries?
I think often one of the first things that I said, or that clients set boundaries on, is a lot of times their time and their energy. So how do they use their time and their energy in a way that they honor themselves? So I see a lot of yes saying, a lot of affirming, and yes, let's do this, I'll help there, I go here. I think that's a lot of times like the base of setting boundaries for a lot of people. And I think maybe even more for women, for what I see in my own practice, is that we just say yes to so many things all the time, and we want to overgive and overdo, and we just exhaust ourselves. And I think it's very important to start learning to say no, or to say, okay, I've had enough, or I'm tired, so I'm not coming, and to not have this feeling that you explain yourself, and that you need to have a reason. Like, the reason can be that you don't feel like it, you want to be alone, you feel like you just want to stay home. Like, you don't need to have an excuse for not showing up or for not being present. I think that's one of the biggest themes that I see in the most basic form of boundary setting.
I think those are very good. Laura, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with Desie. I think one of the most important things is really starting to learn how certain things come up in your body. So if somebody is testing your boundaries, or you're feeling a certain way in your body about what somebody wants from you, it's really learning how to tune in and to see how that's coming up for you. You know, some people have stress in their stomach, or they have uncomfortableness within different parts of their bodies when something comes up and somebody's testing their boundaries. So it's really taking a moment to step back before you give an answer, give a response, and see how that feels in your body first. And if it's not feeling good and you're not feeling comfortable with it, then it's time for you to speak up and say, this isn't working for me. This does not feel good for me. Because at the end of the day, it's what's most important is how you feel about it. So yeah, just really tuning into how things come up for you before you give a response.
Great answer. Thank you. So I'm going to take a pause here, and I'm going to let everybody know, if you want to check out Laura Waszak and what she does and how she can work with you, her website is wavesofselflove.com. And if you want to look up Desie and see how she can work with you, Desie, I'm trying to find it's DesieLaenen.com. And I say that because it's a different spelling that those in the Americas would say when they spell Daisy. So I wanted to make sure you have the proper spelling about that. So I know you both have some upcoming classes or ways you work with clients you wanted to talk about. So Desie, why don't you tell us what's coming up for you and how people can reach out for whatever your offering is?
Yeah, so this coming March, the mid-March, I'm starting a new program which is called From Fear to Food Freedom. And this program is based on or created for transforming your fear to food freedom, which transforms into your daily life, into your relationship with yourself, your relationship with your body. And I studied I study nutrition, and I have healed from an eating disorder, and I'm using these experiences to teach women how to support themselves, nourish themselves through a loving approach to themselves, their food, and their bodies. And it's just such a transformative approach that doesn't go into diet schedules, etc., but a way to learn to connect to yourself so that you can trust your own body and your own intuition, and into making decisions that serve you, which is what food freedom means to me. Um, so yeah, I'm launching that in March. And then I also have, for anyone that's interested, a free meditation that is a guided self-love meditation, A Journey Back to You. They can download it on my website by subscribing to my email list. And that's also something that I recently created and might be very useful for anyone listening to start their self-love journey.
Wonderful. Thank you. And Laura, I know you've got something coming up as well.
Yes, so right now I'm offering distance Reiki sessions. So if you're really looking to, and you're not sure where to start, a Reiki session is a great way to start tuning into yourself energetically, seeing what's going on with your chakras and helping you to start clearing things out. So I'm offering distance sessions as well as in-person sessions in Miami. And then I have a spiritual self-love coaching partnership. So that's kind of an extension to my Reiki sessions where we do some coaching. We really get down to the root of what's coming up for you. And then we do some Reiki as well to help start clearing you out energetically. And then I do have my Badass Soul merchandise as well. So that's my baby. We have shirts, hats, different types of merchandise. And it's for me just a great way to get people to start feeling good about themselves by wearing this stuff, but also doing the healing work. I work with a lot of practitioners and retreats, spiritual retreats. So if you want to check that out, I also have my Badass Soul merchandise out there.
Thank you so much. All right, back to the show. The journey of self-love is not necessarily a straight one. Like energy, like a river, it zigs and it zags. So let's talk about some struggles that you had to let people know how human we are with your journey of self-love. So I don't remember who I left off with. So Desie, I'm going to go to you for this.
Oh wow, a lot of struggles. Well, I think the biggest struggle for me in my self-love journey was developing an eating disorder, which came forward out of not accepting myself, not liking myself for who I was, and wanting to be accepted by others. So I was looking for this external validation in a lot of things all of the time, and I completely lost myself in the journey. And I had to heal from an eating disorder, and then started my journey into self-love. And along the way, I had so many bumps on the road of realizing how I actually saw myself, or how I was talking to myself. I stepped into relationships that weren't good for me, that were reflecting my my feelings of unworthiness, or reflecting my doubts or insecurities about myself. A lot of relationships, while I was healing from an eating disorder, I continuously things came onto my path, in order for me to grow and heal more. And the biggest thing for me was healing from my eating disorder. That really got me or had me to go back into this connection with myself. And then I recently became a mother, and that was also a big part of going deeper into self-love, the whole pregnancy journey, the birth, the postpartum, being a mom, having someone need you all the time, having to learn that I need to take my time, my space, and I need to have my boundaries, and I need to forgive myself for any mistakes that I make or things that I'm not proud of doing it a certain way. Like, motherhood has been a very challenging and amazing and beautiful journey, but it's another thing that I'm learning so much about how I see myself and what is important to me, because I'm so much shorter on time. Like, I feel, I don't know, well, if any moms are listening, they will probably recognize this, that you just have less time. So you also have less time for bullshit. You have less time for saying yes to things that really don't bring you joy or don't light you up. And I had to become even more honest and more clear and true to myself with how things feel in my body, and if they feel right to me. So yeah, that's a few parts of the self-love healing journey.
Well, thank you, and congratulations on the new baby.
Thank you.
And Laura, what are some
Yeah,
of
for
the
me,
big challenges you've had?
yeah, I think your self-love journey changes depending on what's going on in your life. So for me, my self-love journey really started a little over 4 years ago. I was in a long-term relationship that ended pretty badly. And for me, that my journey started then because I wanted to heal from the hurt. I wanted to heal from giving myself to that relationship too much and really just losing myself. So that was really why my self-love journey started. But now as it's been going on, it's changed as I'm, in different parts of my life. So, now that I'm going full-time in my business, there's new things that come up, right? There's money mindset. There's things that you have to work on to believe that you're worthy of these things. So, I talk about this on my Instagram page all the time. It's just going through changes in your life then brings about new things that you have to work through. And it's never done. Your healing journey is never done. There's always things that are going to come up. But at the end of the day, it's about a self-love journey is just about choosing yourself, continuing to focus on yourself and choosing yourself at the end of the day. And there's going to be bumps. There's been many bumps along my journey for sure. But it's having those tools that you can still use along the journey, no matter what comes up for you. And that's been so important for me, is having these tools that I've been using for the last 4 or 5 years, and continuing to use these throughout different stages of my life.
The tools are really important. And it's a journey. And I think what everybody needs to realize who's going to step on this path is that it's not necessarily easy flowing. Some people flow easier than others. It depends what's going on in your life and what you're dealing with. And that to not give up because something gets challenging. Everything that comes in front of you is there to help you learn and grow and for your expansion and ascension. And I think if people understand that going in, so that they can embrace it, so they know when they have a hiccup in life or a challenge, whatever you want to call it, that it's temporary. It's the most temporary thing. And if they allow it, it will just flow out and something else will flow in, taking its place. But to not give up don't give up the ship and say, oh, this is hopeless, because it's never hopeless. There's always hope involved with moving into the journey. I don't know if you agree with that, but it's totally where I go. It is just about charity shout out time. So since there's a panel, I'm going to start with the charity shout out. So why don't we start with Desie, your charity, which is, I've got it somewhere, Human Concern. So let's talk about human concern.
So Human Concern is a eating disorder clinic here based in the Netherlands. They also have some programs outside of the Netherlands, but this is where I went for my own recovery. After a lot of failed clinics, I ended up here, and they work only with they call them expert professionals. So they are people that have been through an eating disorder, have experienced an eating disorder, and there I learned the importance of talking to someone, being helped by someone that is going before you, or has went before you. Like, they did the work, they have been through it, they understand you. And I think in any situation and in any healing journey, it is so important to have someone that understands you, that is able to guide you and keep you accountable within your process and in your healing. And yeah, this is specifically for eating disorders, and it's a beautiful clinic that I would love to support and just give a shout out for their amazing work.
And if you want to check them out, their website is humanconcern.nl, like
Thank
Nancy Larry. So thank you. And Laura, let's talk about your charity, which is mine.
Yes. So it's the Child Mind Institute. It's a nonprofit based in New York, and it works with children and families, children specifically that are struggling with mental disorders, anxiety, stress. I think especially now with the pandemic, it's been very difficult on children. And so this is a great organization that's helping children to work through these mental struggles and the struggles of the pandemic, and struggles outside of that. So it's a great organization to support, and it really starts with children, right? It's as children we start to grow into these adults that we are today. So really helping children to learn how to handle these mental issues and struggles that come into their lives. It's really important. So it's a great organization.
I love it. And children are our future, right? They're the ones who we're going to look up to, as
For
they
sure.
grow up. So childmind.org is the website. Please check them out. See how you can help either of these two charities, whatever resonates with you, or you might have a charity of your own that you really, really is near and dear to your heart. Because being of service is also giving back. So be of service and give back and support something that you believe in. So thank you, ladies, for sharing that with me. I wanted to ask you both about your different approaches to self-love. So what is your approach? Why is it different, Laura, than maybe mine or Daisy's?
So for me, my approach is really getting in tune with what's going on in your inner world. So, that's why I speak about Reiki and meditation, because it's tools that really help you start to feel into your body, feel into your chakras, feel into what's coming up for you. And so it's more of an inner based approach. And, self love, ultimately, it is inner based, but we're looking at a spiritual approach to it, as well as, the self-love approach to it. So for me, I'm big on energetics. That's my work. So it's really working with the energy that is within you, and the energy also that's outside of you that, can sometimes penetrate into you. So it's really energetically, we're getting to the energetics of it, and really looking at what's being held deep within your cells, and the different types of traumas that are being held within, and working through those so we can heal the years and years of traumas that might be coming up for you. So it's getting deep within.
Which is great. And it's not only in this lifetime. We bring things from past lives into this life that we still have to deal with. So if you're dealing with issues that have to do with low self-esteem or self-confidence, whatever it might be, it may be something that happened to you and that you're bringing forward. So it's something to keep in mind, to know that when you're clearing, you're doing energy work, it's both this lifetime and past lives. And
Right.
Desie, what about your approach to your clients?
So the work that I do, I as a holistic coach and as a nutritionist is that self-love reflects itself in a lot of ways that we take care of ourselves in our daily lives. And I found in my own journey how important nutrition is, and taking care of yourself always needs to be the priority, and also how food can support you. So and there's just, with so many women, there's this disordered connection with food, and how they allow themselves to enjoy these things um, and feel worthy of eating just in general. So in coaching, in the work that I do, I really look as a holistic coach to the physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual well-being of the person. And I look at the person as a whole. So like Laura said, you go deep, you have to go inside in order to look at the things that are keeping you from moving on, are keeping you from growing. And yeah, I think the biggest difference that I bring in my coaching is my background in nutrition, and the how you can support yourself in thriving. So I think just food affects us so much, and if you eat healthy and in a way that you love and you enjoy and it just feels very good for you, you also have more mental clarity, and it's just easier for you to connect to who you truly are, instead of having this how do you say that, like this very disturbing I can't find a word, but this disturbing thing going on in your life around food, or inside your body, of um, inflammation in the body, or anything that is going on inside your physical body health wise, can bring up a lot in your internal being as well. So it's also connected, and it's always super interesting to dive very deep into it. And I think that will sum up what's different about my self-love approach.
And it's also, people do use food in different ways that are not necessarily beneficial for them. They stuff their feelings, they stuff their emotions, so they just keep eating and eating and eating, and they become unhealthy.
Totally.
Or they need to take control over their life. And by doing so, they're going to control what they put in their mouth or not, which will bring in the bulimia or okay, my brain just,
Anorexic.
thank you, anorexia. One
Yeah.
or the other.
Yeah, and if I can add
Yes,
add
absolutely.
something to that, is that what's interesting for me is that food never you don't have the choice to not eat. Like with other addictions like alcohol or drugs, the only way out is to just stop. And with food, you will have to learn to find your way that works for you. And there's no good or bad. There's 100,000 ways of being healthy and living healthy, and it works different for everyone. But there's so many food choices that we have to make on a daily basis, and they are either love based or fear based, and it connects to so many emotional feelings in your body as well.
So true. Let's talk about what your tip to living a happy life. If you were talking to a stranger and they said, "What is your tip for living a happy life?" What would you say, Desie?
Ooh, yeah, I think the biggest thing for me is to realize that there's only two true emotions, or two true feelings, which is either love or fear, which simplifies your emotions so much more, to be able to understand how you're feeling. So if you feel fearful, like, what is this teaching you? What is this showing you? And why do you feel fearful around a certain subject or situation in your life? And how can you transform? How would a love-based feeling feel at the moment? And I think that people know better than they think how to tap into love. if they think of love, the feeling itself, it automatically will show to them what kind of feeling that would be in that situation. Like, how would love feel in this situation? And I think that's just a very important thing and a good thing to just think about and just have it going in the background of your mind. Like, what are these two differences in how I feel in every decision or choice or I make, and to see the difference and to observe, so that people just can start to be more observative, more living as an observer instead of just going on autopilot all the time.
Great answer. Thank you, Laura. What's your tip or tips for living a happy life?
Oh, I feel like I have many tips for this, but I think it's important to live a life of joy, right? It's life is really all about perspective. You can be in a situation that somebody else might feel is hard, but if you're living it in a way that is bringing you joy and you're living it happily, that's important. So, and also doing what's best for you. I think that's where self-love comes in, because once you start to really understand what's best for you, what your intuition is telling you, then it's easier for you to start to live the life that you desire. You're no longer looking for external validation. You're no longer looking for other people to tell you what to do. You're doing what you want to do, and that brings you peace ultimately. So, yeah, living the life that you want to live, and just changing your perspective day to day on how you want to live happily and with joy.
Love it. Thank you very much. Okay, we only have a few minutes left. So, is there anything that I have not asked you wanted to share with the listening audience? I want to start with you, Laura.
I feel like we got to it. I mean, I think, ultimately for me, it's really just about energetically checking in with yourself daily. That's one of those things that are most important for me is, whether it be meditation or some type of energetic boundary meditation, it's just continually checking in with yourself. Allowing yourself to just sit still, even if it's just for a minute or two each day, and really listening to what your heart is telling you, what your intuition is telling you. And I think that really helps you along your self-love journey, is just that check-in, like a friend would check in with you, like just check in with yourself like that. So yeah, I think that's pretty much the only other thing.
Thank you. Desie.
Yeah, the only thing left that I would like to share is that for any women or men that are listening and they feel like they do have a desire to change, or they do have a desire to live more happy or healthy, or a different way than what they're experiencing right now, to let them know that they are worthy of making the decision and to take the step of taking the leap to change, or I don't know, like reaching out for a friend to help, or reaching out for someone professional to help, that they are worthy of this change and of a different life that they truly desire to live. Like Laura said before, like what brings you joy and what is it that you truly want and want to experience, to live. I think a lot of people feel like they don't deserve to make that leap, or take that leap, or make that choice, or ask for help. But I want this to be your message, that wherever you are, at every place in life, you deserve to make that change, and you're worthy of making that choice just for you.
I love it. I think it's great. And yes, I understand they have to ask for help, because in my world, the way I live it is, I talk about asking for help, like your guides, your angels. They don't have to step in and just be there for you to intervene in something that's going on in your life. So you need to ask for help. And it works the same way with knowing that, let's say your eating disorder, that something's not right and you need help with it. Ask for the help you need so that you can get the help you need. I mean, it makes a huge difference to living a happy life or a frustrated life, or a angry, what it be, angry, sad, depressed, fear-based. asking for help takes, it's a huge step for helping yourself. Again, it goes back to that whole AA thing, right? Until you take the step and ask for the help by being at a meeting or finding a sponsor, you're not going to get the help you need. You're the one who has to take control of your life. You have to be responsible for it.
Yeah.
So
that can I add on
yeah,
to that?
yeah, absolutely.
I think a lot of times we think like, why would I, or why would I believe that could happen for me, or it could be this good for me? But like you're saying, like that first step, I think a lot of times we just see the gap from being here where we are right now to go all the way to where we desire to be seems just so big and so impossible that it makes it feel just useless to take that first step, and even more vulnerable. But when you take that step, you can be so freaking proud of yourself that you're taking that step, and it's the most important and difficult step in your journey, I think. But it just gets things rolling, and from there on, you're just in this process of, okay, I took the decision, and now I showed up for myself, and I sent it out into the universe, and now I have to take responsibility for it because I put it out there, which I think is so powerful.
Incredibly powerful. Laura, did you have any closing words to follow on what Desie was saying?
Yeah, I think, just when you take that step, when you take that leap, it's you telling the universe that you're ready, and the universe is going to support you. You're, like you had mentioned, Marla, you have to ask for the help from your guides, from your angels. So once you start asking for that help, they're going to be there. Your ancestors are going to be there. So it's taking that step that's really signaling to the universe that you're ready to go to that next level. So it just takes that leap, even though it's scary and you can have a lot of fear within that. It's something that needs to be done in order to show that you're ready for that next level in your life.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Laura Waszak and Desie Laenen. Our time is up. I'm so grateful that you've shared the way you believe in self-love, how you get your clients to self-love, because there's so many levels and layers. Like anything, it's not straightforward, and it's a process. And so being patient with the process is, you've given the listeners just so much really great meat to dive into. So thank you, Laura. Thank you, Desie. So remember, you can check out Laura's website of wavesofselflove.com, and Desie Laenen, which is DESIELAENEN.com. See how they can work with you. See how, what they're doing and how it resonates. And it's a way to start finding someone to work with. So thank you both very, very much. I want to thank Bridget, who's my right arm, my left arm. Oh my God, thank you for all you do for me. So, so grateful. I am grateful to you, the listening audience, for taking time out of your life, out of your day, to be a part of this show. If you're not able to watch the live version, please find the podcast on your favorite listening platform so you can hear the show. Also, if you like the show, subscribe to whatever listening platform you're on. You're able to subscribe to the show so you don't have to miss one single exciting episode of it. So thank you. And as I leave, I'm going to let those know that I am going to be at the Bag Lady Charlotte this Friday from 2:30 to 6:30. If you're in the neighborhood, it's at 1516 East 4th Street. Stop by, say hello. If you'd like to have a session, that would be great. You can go on my website or to the Bag Lady website to sign up for an appointment. If you don't want to do something live, I do remote sessions. Check out my website at Marla Goldberrg, and Goldberg has 2 R's.com. See how I work with you. Once again, sending prayers to those in Ukraine and who are being affected by this war. May it be short-lived, and may you able to really be able to prosper and not succumb to the efforts of the people who are penetrating your country. Also, the schedule is marlagoldberrg.com/schedule if you want to schedule an appointment. As I leave you, as always, I send you love, blessings, and gratitude. Know how grateful I am that you're in my life in any way you are. And if you haven't heard these words today, I'm going to say them. Wait, I'm going to say them. I love you. You are loved. You are never alone. Know you are loved. And remember to ask your guides, your angels, your archangels, those on the other side of the veil for help when you need it, because they do not have free will. Till next week, stay well, stay warm, take provisions in your car if you're driving in areas that are having snowstorms or ice storms. So if you are found stuck, you are warm, you have water, you have food. If you're with animal, bring food and water for them as well, and a blanket, and stay well and healthy. So until next week, take care. Bye.